Oh, Peter, is this a little KOB?
Yeah, no. Influenced by, mildly influenced by.
Oh, who's on piano?
I'd have to do a little bit of self-analysis to figure that out.
Oh,
but I can let you know.
It's not KOB, it's POM?
C'est moi.
C'est moi. I'm Adam Ennis.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music advice coming at you.
Coming at you today, sponsored by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com for all of your jazz lesson needs.
That's right.
Yeah. So we're doing a little self-analysis.
That's
we're doing
right.
How to survive listening to yourself.
Avoid paralysis by analysis.
Yeah. Now, this is a skill that we teach around here. We encourage people to record themselves playing. However, this might take work to be able to do this effectively.
Yes.
Which seems like it shouldn't take work. I just listen to myself. I analyze. I see what I like. I see what I don't like. But it's really hard to get your ego out of the way when you're listening to yourself.
Right.
For good and bad.
Right.
Some of us can be very hard on ourselves. Some of us can be a little too easy on ourselves.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's changing over the lifespan of for all of us. You know, like we go through these different stages. We go through different seasons. And I think there's a certain element of like learn to love thyself.
Yeah.
That's really important as an artist, you know. And when I say as an artist, this is not some highfalutin thing that you're a graduate of, you know, the Manhattan School of Music. Now you are an artist, or you have performed at X Jazz Club. No, this is about you have committed to putting your art out into the world in service.
Yeah.
Right. And so the art of self-love of what it is that you're doing is difficult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's a necessary thing for the progression, for our progress as musicians, of course, to be listening to ourselves. Not all the time. It's not the biggest part of it. But you do have to have some self-awareness.
Totally.
You know, you do have to be able to check, are the things that you're working on, how are they lining up in your playing? What are the things that you do need to be working on?
Yeah.
But then there's also just the being at peace with what you've put out there into the world.
That is what takes some work for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
And so a couple of things to keep in mind as you start to listen to recordings of yourself, and this could be you record yourself in the practice room, or you record yourself in a jam session, or on a gig, or maybe, which is what I have here. I have a recording of a gig from just a couple of weeks ago that I thought we could check out. And then you have a recording that you made with friend of the show, Jeff Clapp.
Right. This is actually Jeff Clapp's album. I thought this would be fun to put out there because a lot of people aren't hip to this because it was recorded in 2020 and came out in 2021, but I hadn't really listened to it. I recently kind of checked it out some, and I was like, wow, okay, that's something that I haven't listened to much, but I can tolerate at least.
Oh,
nice.
I
feel like, and I thought we could kind of riff a little bit, and maybe I'll start out just talking about that with this. A lot of times, one of the things that's been difficult for me to kind of, accept over the years has been recordings that people constantly say like, oh, I love your playing on this, or I love your solo on this album, like some of that stuff from the Joshua Redman live stuff, and from that whole period in the 90s.
Spirit of the Moment.
That's Spirit of the Moment, yeah. One. And I never listened to those much, but I would go back periodically, like every decade or many years sometimes, and be like, let me check this out. People are talking about it enough. And then when I listened to it, I was like, I chafe. It's a little bit like, ugh, I'm wincing. I hear some good things that are happening. It's fun nostalgically to go back to that period because it was a great period, and really my friends and brothers playing in that band, a lot of fun. But it's not necessarily my favorite stuff that I've done. But again, like that's not really about us. We're not putting things out there. We're putting it for ourselves.
Yeah.
But how do we kind of find those things? And then I thought it would be interesting just to look at like, why is something that maybe is not as much what we're known for, or maybe resonates with ourselves and is more of our favorite kind of stuff that we have put out there? Why is that sometimes a little bit under the radar, perhaps?
Yeah. A great exercise for this, as you do this, as you prepare for this, is to put in an intention of what you want to get out of this when you listen to yourself. Yeah. Are you doing it just to pump yourself up? Like, are you doing this, listening to something, just be like, to prove that you can play? Oh, I belong here, or I sound good on this, or whatever.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to be a very productive session if you're just inflating your own ego. Same for the reverse. Are you just going to bash yourself? So I find the best way for me to do this is to pretend like I'm listening to someone else. So I do a lot of Feedback Fridays here at Open Studio where I try to listen to our students here at Open Studio and be really honest with the feedback for the purposes of their growth. So if I hear something that, you know what, I think you can work on this rhythmic thing here, or maybe like check out this phrasing of this. I try to, when I really want to grow, if I'm just, not when I'm just like casually checking myself out, but if I'm using this as an exercise for growth, I'll pretend like this isn't even me, because that way I don't inflate my own ego. There's not a lot of stock into it. Like, oh, how did I do? The more like I should have done this, I wish I would have done this. We got to let all that stuff go, because if you start getting on that train, I mean, you can just take apart your whole solo and be like, well, I should just sound like Keith Jarrett,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, if you get on that, that's like getting on the Ozzy Osbourne crazy train.
Yeah, it's not good.
Got
Crazy train. That's great. But if you can sort of have some separation, this is a different person that you're listening to. This was not. This is not you in the moment now. This is, for me, this is me 4 weeks ago. For you, this is you 3 years ago.
Right.
And so it's a whole different person. You got a whole different makeup of cells in your body. And so if you can treat it with that sort of objectivity of like, this is not. It has no bearing on if I deserve to be a musician or if I deserve to be loved in this world or any of that. I know that sounds heavy, but that's usually where we go first. Is like, oh, I
but
suck.
nobody
I don't
listening,
deserve.
and nobody else is thinking
No
that.
one else is thinking it. So if you can listen to yourself, how other people might listen to you with like, pretend it's not even you. Pretend it's someone else, and you're being honestly objective about what you're hearing. You can actually get a lot of growth, because what you're doing here is you're pinpointing areas of weakness that you can really work on in your practicing. And that doesn't mean you're not a great artist or you're not a good person. It just means like, these things I can really work on to help make me better. Absolutely.
And I mean, I think too, there's also, there's some things like we kind of gravitate towards like, how was my solo on this? But like, I like to listen for like, how did I do in some supportive, like, cause I feel like solos or like solo piano, or if you are playing a solo on something, they're a little bit easier to sort of gauge and evaluate in real time. Like you kind of know how it's going because you sort of know your intent as you're going through it, like whether or not, like I felt good about that solo.
Yeah.
But then let's not forget, especially as pianists or any comping, rhythm section instrument, or really any instrument, like there's always, there's often more supportive requirements to what we're doing than there are like stepping out front. So why aren't we listening to that? So like I always try to be like, how successful was my support underneath another soloist, or how good of a rhythm section player was I?
Yeah, just not you shining, but what's the overall effect?
And the easier side is to be like, is to be critical with any aspect of our playing in which we're like, I need to work on that. My time was a little off. I felt steady there, but I can hear I'm dragging.
Yeah.
Of course, that's valuable stuff. But we can also learn a lot from the successful things we do, and that's okay too. Like, especially on the supportive things, like, wow, that worked really well. A little mental note to do that more.
Well, let's get to it there. Let's listen to.
Should I just pick up where I was already?
Yeah. Let's pick it. So this is Flamenco Sketches?
Flamenco Sketches. Jeff Clapp on drums.
Who's playing bass?
Ruben Rogers.
Ruben Rogers playing bass.
Right. Shout out Upright Citizens.
Great sounding piano.
Yeah.
First of all. Take notes on you too. I hope that's okay.
I love that band. You too.
Oh man, Clap sounds great. You know, we don't have to play mine. That 13.
And then there's a bass solo. Actually, Ruben is killing.
Ruben sounds great
on this.
Yeah.
And I highly, we're going to link to this below. The name of the album is Redeemed. Jeff Clapp sounds great. Nicholas Payton's on here, not on this track, but on some other stuff. It was a really fun session and a great record that's kind of flown under the radar. But I'll say, like, the stuff that I like that I did was, I mean, it kind of comes out of some negative, because I still hear, like, I hear a lot of things where I was like, why was I so square in there? But I think, like, there were certain things where I was like,
feels like really free flowing to me. That's the thing. It's
I think there was enough that I did free flowing, so maybe that kind of works. But then I hear, like, you know, it's just a great reminder for us sometimes to be like, not necessarily even so critical, but we're not the best arbiters in the moment. Only insofar as, like, we're able to really be in the moment and accept that sometimes the music needs something a little bit square, maybe because something that's come before, and that some of it's a little bit above our head.
So when you're listening back and you hear some square phrasing, and by square you mean like you're doing it, you're lining it up in the same beat every time, like, presumably, or similarly. There's no feeling of floatiness in those phrases. Yeah, that didn't bother me at all, because you were doing all this other floaty shit around it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe that's how it works. But that's the thing. Like, when the meta-analysis of this kind of stuff, not only are we our worst enemies or our biggest critics, but also what we know, nobody else knows. And so, like, as soon as I get back into this, I haven't really listened to this much, but it takes me back, and I almost remember, I was like, oh yeah, this was happening. But nobody knows that when they're listening. So we think about, like, the things that we are thinking about at the time, or that we're privy to, or that we maybe didn't feel like we succeeded at. To others, they don't know that. So it's not like, so how do you sort of step back and say, does the whole thing sound good? So I'm listening to Jeff and Ruben on this, and myself to a certain extent, but really kind of like the whole blend of things. Like, did I help them sound better? Hopefully so, even on my solo. Like, did I make the entire thing? Because it's not my solo. Like, we're all playing. Yeah. And, like, this kind of playing, I love when it's, like, really throwing the baton back and forth.
Baton?
Gala? Gala. Stick around to the end. We've got some exciting news about the Gala / Gala.
Yeah. Man,
let's get to yours. Let's get
my notes here, I have a couple. They're all positive. There's no negative notes on that. I thought it was a great solo. So first, your touch is... You always have superb touch on ballads. Like, you have the best bell-like from here to, like, here of any of my favorite pianists.
What about above and below the point?
Nope, not good. But those especially are just really lovely, and it sounded like a beautiful Steinway D that you were playing.
That's incredible. Shout out Esplanade Studios in Nolens.
One thing that I noted for just for my own playing, if I can rip some stuff off from you, is your thematic development was so strong. I could hear a new idea be presented and then being taken through some kind of journey. So for those listeners that don't know, if Peter does something, he doesn't just do it once and then move on. Often he'll take that idea, that little kernel, probably somewhere that you've got listening to Jeff and Ruben as they play, something comes, and he spins it out in these various ways. You literally take whatever, some simple nugget of an idea, and you can hear you spin it through all these different versions of itself, really looking at it from all perspectives. And to me, that's the most fun playing to listen to. It's the most joyous playing I get to do when it happens for me as well. Just really inspirational. Then on like a sort of a nuts and bolts level, man, your subs on these chords, it started off, you were subbing a lot of the, cause it's like that sort of dominant. I heard a couple of crunchy subs that went in, and then you started doing it on the,
you don't know, but now your brother.
What was one? There was some of this kind of subs going on the G, like a sharp 11 maybe at some point. Like the subs kept getting more intense and in places where it wasn't just in the transition chords. Like this is what was so brilliant about how you use chord substitutions. It wasn't like you started off just using it in very transitional moments, like of this, instead of that, of this kind of stuff. And then by the end, you were subbing out on more of the solid moments, so that because our ears already know, we already know what the solid moments,
5 chords.
And so I don't think you were probably even thinking of this. This is just how I know this feeling as well, where you're like, you start off and you just develop that home base. And then from there, you just go exploring outwards, harmonically, melodically. It's really the most fun about being an improviser is you don't know what's going to happen. You don't have a plan for it, but our ears just lead us to these places after a while. And it's really fun.
Yeah, and I mean a tune like this where the framework is so clear and simple, but how do you use the advantage? The weird thing about this tune is there's no melody to it.
Yeah.
So like, how do you use that to your advantage?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's a great tune for telling a story. And the better you know and understand the possibility of those chords. And I do think I did a good job of telling a story, because it's so important on something like this, because
100%.
there is no story set up. There is no melody.
Yeah.
There's a framework and a possibility. So a lot of people look like, oh, it's so easy. It's only 5 chords and there's no melody to worry about and it's slow and whatever. But I think that the possibility is of it. And also knowing when to pull back because of the openness and possibilities, you can just sort of go crazy. And maybe I did a little bit at times. Hopefully it was at a point where like the story kind of led there to kind of go off in a flurry or a different direction.
Yeah.
But a tune like this, having experience over it is definitely, to your advantage for sure.
For sure. Let's check out a little
Adam.
Let's check out mine. So I got a video actually. If you want to put a video.
Oh, come on.
So this is live from Jazz St. Louis from just a few weeks ago. I think 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, this is a great gig. I actually watched.
This was a show we revisited Billy and Ella with 2 great vocalists here in St. Louis, Erica Johnson and Anita Jackson.
Yeah.
And I haven't really checked this out, but I do remember this Tisket a Tasket, which is an Ella classic, feeling really great. We had, first of all, amazing audiences all 3 days of this.
Yeah, sold out.
And they were just like super with us. You have those crowds that like for some reason everybody's on stage with you kind of.
Yeah.
It was like that. And I just remember this being
That
a really...
energy helps, as it turns out.
It totally does. I remember this being a really nice moment. This is Anita Jackson singing Tisket a Tasket, Nathan Pence on bass, and our own bonus here.
I was about to say, producer Caleb at the drums
for this show.
Is this your first appearance on the pod visually?
Maybe
playing
musically,
drums?
I think.
Musically. Yeah.
So, and I kind of put it, this isn't from the beginning. This is kind of before the piano solo.
Fine, a tisket, a tasket. I lost my yellow basket. And won't somebody bring
With that
it
group,
back
Caleb.
and make
I think
me
she lost her
happy
basket
again?
in Nolans,
Was
perhaps.
it red?
Back to New York.
Was it blue? Just a little yellow basket. Was it green? Was it red? Was it blue? It's just a little bitty yellow basket. Thank you.
Tickle it, tickle it.
Adam and y'all.
What?
Was it green?
So okay,
Was it
Killing.
not bad. No,
Killing,
it was
man. Killing.
actually better than I remembered. I remembered feeling, obviously the audience there is helping, and this is at a point of the show where we just did we did Strange Fruit. We kind of took it down, and this is Anita's first tune here singing, so we wanted to come in with a swanger.
Yeah.
Which I think we accomplished.
Swinging
there.
and a swagger.
Yeah, for my own, if I'm looking at this objectively, and I don't do this that often, I should probably do this more.
He's
I
blushing. He's blushing a
a
little bit.
little bit. It was
Color correction necessary.
I liked what it fit with sort of the vibe we were going for. Definitely just trying to tip it and be open. I think I just played too much up front. I would have liked to, if I were listening to someone do this, I would say, with this kind of thing, just you can jab a little more at the top. I went in hot. I came in hot. Would be my own, and I know it's probably no one else. No one else is probably thinking that as much as I am. I'm like, I'm playing too much up top. I could have been more open to what was happening between the trio or whatever. Which eventually I think I got to that place, but sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you just come in.
Okay, I'm gonna have to color correct you on that as well. I don't think that's interesting. So when I hear, kind of what it's coming out of with Anita and what ended up being the length of the solo, and I figured you guys probably didn't have that predetermined, right? It wasn't like take 4 choruses.
No. I think we were just trying to keep solos fairly short.
Yeah. No, to me, you came in right at the right, not only level of intensity, but level of kind of density as well. If the solo had ended up being like a 5-minute solo, maybe not. But because of the brevity of the solo, and actually this solo felt shorter than it actually was, which is always a good sign.
Yeah.
Like when this finished, and then you see how many choruses or how long it was, and you're like, it seemed longer than that. That's not a good sign.
That's not a good sign. Yeah. I think this was 2 choruses through.
Okay, 2 choruses. So it felt appropriate. And I always think that's such an important thing, and that's something that's more difficult on a tune like this than like a flamenco sketches or something. Like, how many choruses should it be? Because the high level players like you do it on feel, right? And the high level groups like this, and the rhythm section's killing it.
Yeah,
shout out Caleb and
Nathan Pence.
I mean, you guys were swinging from the beginning.
Now in Los Angeles, Nathan Pence, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah, just moved last week.
Interesting. Okay. Some good young bass players out in LA. Maybe there's a trend there. Ben Williams is LA. Yeah. But
I think that's why Pence went out there. There's a lot of good players moving to LA.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, that's a good little lesson. Like, don't be like, there's a lot of, you want to be an A player and get your A game on. Don't be like, there's a lot of bass players going to LA, so I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, go
or
hang
they're
out.
leaving New York, so maybe I'll have a better chance. No, you go where the action is.
Ben Williams, he's a busy guy. You might get some of those gigs.
If you go out on Olive Boulevard in West U City, what do you see out there lying? What kind of restaurants?
A lot of Chinese places.
The best Chinese places, they all lined up. They're not scared of each other.
No.
They created a district. You want
to go for some Chinese food, you go out there.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, what happens when you come up to a stop sign?
Gala time.
No, okay. So what I thought can I jump in on some stuff that I love?
Yeah, let me just do one more of my little critiques, and I think this, especially after hearing your brilliant playing. So this is so silly to have this after what you played.
Not at all.
But the thematic development, I could have used. I was definitely grabbing onto themes like that.
Yeah.
What is that tune?
Start with some barbecue.
Yeah. I grabbed onto that theme. I think it was almost too repetitive. I could have varied it more. And it's so hard to do this after the fact now because I feel like spiritually I was in the moment there and it was just happening. And I hate to criticize that voice, but listening, I would have been like, I could have done just a little more I could have done with a little more variety with that theme.
So okay. I think with that you did it great, and it's so hard having done this to play stuff that is recognizable, that is very basic, and by basic I mean easy to sing, easy to feel, easy it was so appropriate what you were doing over this. And it's so much harder, and folks don't understand this. First of all, this kind of playing is so audience friendly, which I love in all the right ways.
This was the joy of the weekend.
Yeah.
Is you play like this, you just tip and you're just swinging, you're just connecting these themes to people. and they were loving it. We were loving it together. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I mean, it's so much easier when you have the level of skill and understanding that you do to just go into solo and start subbing things out and playing chromatic and doing like cool substitutions and amazing. And then some people in the audience would be like,
I mean, we did some of that, you know, but this didn't feel appropriate
but not
for
here.
this tune.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You were so dialed in on the solo from your entrance on appropriateness.
Yeah.
Like, what does this moment need? I could feel it. Now, I saw this gig, the live stream also, so I kind of know what the flow is. But even like I was trying to be like, if I just walked into the club at this moment, that's a test for you. If you walk into the club and you hear exactly what we just saw, you kind of the ending, you know, Kaleb coming out of the New Orleans thing back into the swing, like, so you jumped right in on the solo, which is like, that's a pro move right there. Like you almost, like some people would be like, oh, you almost like layered in underneath what Anita was doing. You know, it was like a pickup kind of coming in. You came in hot and you also came in early. But that was the perfect thing for that moment because you didn't segment things off. You didn't like let things cool down. You guys did come back a little bit, but not on the intensity. So like you totally rode that wave and you came in, you know, fairly dense, but I thought right at the appropriate level. And then a lot of the things that you played, especially like when you went up into the upper register, like to play it and be swinging that hard and to not rely on like crazy harmonic stuff to kind of cover or like a whole bunch of like, you know, 16th notes or triplets or whatever, like is really hard and important, I think, on a shorter kind of a solo. Like you committed to playing things and then repeating them and then like completing them without like copping out on just some jazzy piano type stuff.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
Like you know what it was? You were playing like a singer. You were soloing like a great singer would do.
Well, we were celebrating Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald, and maybe that was subconsciously there. But I think it was just, you know, you try to catch a wave on these things, right?
Yeah.
You're just trying to be with whatever's happening in the moment. So,
and you played. I actually put on my notes. I said you were typical in the very best way. Like you played typical things. And people don't understand, like when and by typical, I mean, like, you're not like, wait, what was that? How did he, you know, it's just like booba dooba dip, bip, bip, something like that.
Yeah.
To do that and have it swinging and have it sound relevant is very difficult, but it's very important because when you have to, well, you don't ever have to do it, but when you want to do it, it takes a lot of confidence and swag to be able to do that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was, I certainly remember.
I mean, you didn't use any moo chords is what I'm saying.
Not on that one. Again, moo chords were played for this gig, but yeah, it's right. I do feel like I remember this particular song is feeling really good. And so I think it holds up, is at least with being in the spirit of the moment.
Yeah.
Shout out to Joshua Redman. Cool, man. Well, this was fun. The key to survival.
Fun and awkward. It's such a weird combination.
Well, it is a little awkward, but you know, I think you and I are at our advanced level of age here, and having been doing this for a long time, I'm not going to beat myself up over things I should have done, or why didn't I sound like someone else, or why don't I sound like Peter Martin playing flamenco sketches. It doesn't matter, you know, I think as much for us at this point. And I think that's really the key to this episode and this exercise is the more you can sort of just kill your ego with this, be objective. Like, what do you like about it? What are some things that you can highlight and work on in your playing and do more of? What are some things that you would want to grow from this? I have my list for sure.
Yeah.
And then, you know, more importantly, I think, how are you feeling as you're doing this? You know, how are you feeling as you're playing?
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's two things that come to mind in terms of if we want to sort of, you know, check some boxes for successes, because that's always important as we listen to our playing and look for areas to improve or whatever. But we also want to, you know, affirm some things that we did correct, not so much to pat ourselves on the back, but to make sure that those remain a part of our playing and that we're dialed in on some of those elements. So there's two things in particular. On yours, like, how did the music feel when Anita came back in? Like, that's such an underrated part of a piano solo, especially with a vocalist. But anytime like a horn player is coming back or whatever, like, it's not about just us playing a great solo and the audience love it. Like, what can you do to make what can you do like a point guard would do to make everybody better? And the way that you ended the solo and when you handed the baton back to Anita, like that, those transition moments are so important. Like these split-second things, almost more important than the whole solo.
No,
sometimes. And you did a great job on that.
The acknowledgement of passing the baton, really, you can exaggerate that, honestly.
Yeah.
And the audience will thank you for it.
Exactly.
They want to know when the shit is done.
That's right. But I'm saying, that too. But I was actually talking about like, how do you set things up in a way that Anita is so Yeah, I mean, she doesn't need to be excited, but like you make her sound good easy.
Right.
Because we have the control. Like we always think about that while they're
Same
playing.
thing with you setting up Ruben's solo coming out of that.
Right.
It's a whole different energy, but yes.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's such a big part. And I was thinking for me, even like I did notice some things that I did that I think made it easier to
sure.
highlight Jeff's brush work.
You guys were totally,
You know.
I mean, you and Clapp have a great vibe together anyway.
Yeah. But I mean, sometimes we get so much into our thing that we start to, we forget how much of an effect we have on others and what a responsibility that is.
Yeah. Great. This
Gala.
is super fun. Gala. Gentlemen and Ladies Agreement.
Yes. please adhere to
Gala.
it. In case you're new here, welcome in. But don't settle into your seat yet until you have pressed the
Subscribe button.
on our,
You'll hear it YouTube channel.
that's right. And that's the same as the Open Studio channel, right?
Nope, totally different channel. You can search for You'll Hear It in YouTube, and we have a whole separate channel just for the podcast. Go subscribe to it now, where you can see
How
visuals.
much does it cost?
It's completely free. All you have to do
It's not completely free.
Well, you do have to adhere to the agreement. Now, for decades, we've been saying you have to put in agreement adhered to, but we're going to change that today. Special thing today,
Yeah.
right? I'm going to the gala.
That's right. I'm
That's
going
what
to
we-
the gala.
Tell us you're going to the
Gentlemen
gala.
and ladies agreement gala.
I'm headed to the gala. I got my tux on for the gala.
That's right.
I got too drunk at the gala.
We're spiraling out of control.
Have I told you a gala story? We don't have time for this, but I'll just real quickly. I was at a gala. I was talking to.
No, you're saying it different every time now.
I was
Gala,
at
gala,
I was
gula.
at Gala, and I was talking to the president, the then
Robert
president of
Goulet.
the St. Louis Art Museum.
Yeah.
And we were having a nice conversation. He's holding some wine. I'm holding some food. And at the end of it, we just had a lovely 5-minute exchange. You know, this is a big shot here in St. Louis art scene. And I was like, well, it's so great to see you. And I wave my hand up and down. I knock his red wine completely on the floor, shatters on the marble floor everywhere. And
Spills up to a Picasso.
I just cowered back in the corner with whatever band was playing. Like, hey guys, how you doing? I don't really deserve.
You guys
to be
enjoying the
here.
gala?
I should not be taken outside of my practice room.
Oh, well, on that note,
You'll hear it.
I'm in Steamboat Springs, Colorado currently.
I'm in Indianapolis.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Andrew, hi.
because I feel inspired to play something else from your playing.
Okay, that's great.
I think using the metronome is a great tool, but it's not the only tool.
All of the answers are really in the music.
What does it mean to live in a groove, be in a groove?
Until next time, happy practicing.